Hello, it's Dr. Darnise, and I wanted to come on and make a video about some things, really some Black women who've been in the news recently, including today. It's the news cycle is something, isn't it? So, welcome into Dr. Darnise's Lifestyle Salon, where we talk about things that concern Black women, especially in public life, the way, people talk about us, the way we talk about ourselves, and encouraging us to love on ourselves more. So, what I want to talk about today are Lizzo and Carlee Russell, just a little bit to touch on. And just to say, like, there's so much negativity in the media constantly, and because of the news cycle and the gossip things, it's there's a certain way that news stories are presented. Like as soon as something happens, people want to think the worst and to cancel people. I kind of thought we'd gotten beyond cancel culture, but I don't know. Um, so with Carlee Russell, we know she's the one who she faked her own disappearance. And of course, I can't defend that. What I can say from my perspective of being a life coach is that when people act out in really extreme ways, something is going on. And instead of canceling people, what I advocate for on this channel and, in my life in general, instead of canceling people is that we try to have some compassion, some understanding, and if not that, if it's so egregious, that we leave room for dialogue. Because if you just throw people away, we never learn how to deal with people who have ideas that we don't agree with. And that's not real life as real grown-ups. You can't just remove everybody who you don't agree with. You can't just shut down people who you don't agree with. That's just not life. But in the last several years, it's become the thing. Like, okay, well, if I don't like somebody, I don't like something they said. If I don't like something they said 10, 20 years ago, I can go back in their past, make it new again, and then call upon the world to cancel them, right? Which causes harm. And I know some of the people who most want to cancel are people who are progressive, who are liberal, who say they are inclusive. But at the same time, if you're inclusive, you have to make room for people you don't agree with. So Carlee Russell, who knows what really is underlying motivation. Hopefully she has a therapist and hopefully she will get some help that she needs. But she's a young Black woman, and I would like to see her get help rather than the world turn on her and throw her away, right? We can do better. And we've got to move past this thing of where we just want to laugh at people, make fun of them at a very low time in their life, and cancel them. That's causing harm too. So for people who are really progressive, which I tend to think of myself as progressive too, but if you're really progressive, what you're saying in being progressive is I'm really inclusive. That means even people I don't like. You're not supposed to like everybody, right? As we mature, you just got to understand I don't like them, they don't like me, but I'm not trying to eliminate them, right? James Baldwin said, his whole way of being in the world was so amazing in terms of dealing with our race relations, right? He's like, from one human being to another, our responsibility is to love one another. Love does not mean like all the time. I can disagree with you, meaning I might not like you, but I love you enough as a fellow human being that I don't try to annihilate you. And so, what Baldwin was pointing out about what white supremacy does is it tries to annihilate Blackness. And that's the distinction he was making between love and light. So, when we think about, Carlee Russell, let's not like just throw her away. Let's hope she gets help. And then secondly is Lizzo. This story broke, I guess, yesterday, last couple of days about her and some accusations and allegations against her and her, I guess the director, the captain of her choreography team, charges against them saying that they as dancers on her tour were subject to being body shamed for their weight. They had been gaining weight apparently, and that Lizzo and her team were making fun of them or shaming them, which would be weird, right? Also, that the captain of her dance team, the choreography captain, is somebody who is, a strong Christian, and she is entitled to have whatever religion she wants, but that she was um, proselytizing, trying to judge other people who are not Christian, right? So these dancers are like, while we were working for Lizzo, we were subject to being shamed for our weight. We were being shamed for not being a Christian or not a Christian the way this other person thought we should be. We were forced to participate in, I guess this might be considered sexual misconduct. They were forced to, while the tour was in Amsterdam, they were forced to participate with the strippers. They went to a strip club or something like this, and the dancers are saying that they were forced to touch the dancer, the exotic dancer. They were forced to participate in various acts that they didn't want to participate in, suggestive things with a banana, touching of other people's bodies, and they did not want to. And that Lizzo um, encouraged them strongly to participate and made it difficult for them not to participate. So, in a work environment, that's sexual harassment. So, these people on Lizzo's team have said that Lizzo is not who she claims to be. She is shaming people because of weight, and she is creating an environment that is difficult, that is toxic, that is basically full of sexual misconduct. Now, of course, everybody is innocent until proven guilty. So all of these things are charges by these other folks. So Lizzo allegedly did these things, and Lizzo's team allegedly did these things. But of course, you're going to hear much more about this in the news because it's news. But again, what I want to point out is from my point of view as a life coach and from the point of view of my channel, I'm always interested in what's underneath that, if it's true or even remotely true, because now these people have come out. There are some other people who used to work with Lizzo a few years ago who come out and said, yeah, her team, her work environment is toxic. And they had similar stories. You can Google and find out all those details. I'm not here to go through all of the gossip details. There's plenty of people out there who do that. But I'm just saying, okay, these are the accusations by one group of people. And then there are some people who worked with Lizzo previously, I believe it was 3 years ago, who said yes, and that's why we don't work with her anymore. And they accused her of being arrogant and difficult, and that she created a toxic work environment. Okay, so if any part of that is true, and we see Lizzo as a public performer who's been really, pro body confidence, uh, pro, fat, pro women, pro sexuality, and just encouraging, a person who's been encouraging, right? And showing us all her talents and all the things that she's able to do despite what she's had to come against from other people's criticism of her. If any of that is true, then it's telling us something that's going on underneath the surface for her, too. So, a lot of times when you are looking at people who are in public life and we're looking at their behavior, and we're pointing a finger and we're judging them and laughing or whatever, what we're doing is not taking into consideration what's underneath there that later on is going to end up in a tragedy, right? Like think about, somebody like Whitney Houston, for example. We all saw her struggling with crack. We saw her struggling with cocaine, she said, right? Like crack is whack, right? we saw her struggling, and people made fun of her. Even though people loved her, people still made fun of her, and we know how that went, right? So again, I say it's not for us to just laugh and point a finger. It's for us to try to understand. And even with this thing with Lizzo, we don't know all the details. Maybe we'll never know. Maybe she'll settle because it's easier to settle these kind of things rather than drag it out in court. It's up to her. But to some degree, we're going to hear more about this story. But if any of it is true, it tells us that Lizzo is dealing with some stuff underneath, like psychologically, emotionally. There's some stuff that she hasn't dealt with. And in a position of power, meaning she has people working under her, she has a team, she's the top of the heap in terms of her business. She's using her power to harm other people. What's that about? Well, if I was her coach, I would be saying to her, what's underneath this? There's a little girl in you who's still very hurt. There's a little girl in you who's lashing out. Now you're using your power to lash out at other people. What's up with that? It's her shadow. If you know anything about psychology, we all have a shadow side. The part, we like to put our face out here and be like, oh, this is all who I am, right? But underneath it, because we all have stuff, right? The shadow side can be at work and you don't even know it, but it'll come out in weird ways. And so Lizzo is probably showing us her shadow, the hurt little girl who suffered a lot of the, maybe bullying, who suffered along the way. And now that she's in a position of power, she's inflicting on other people. That's not unusual. So again, on this channel, I like to uplift us as Black women. And so I'm calling for us to, you know, think and feel before we just want to throw people away, right? At least wait until there's more information, right? Don't throw people like cancel. I'm just done with cancel culture. I'm done with it. I never really, it's not helpful. What's the point in it? Because if you do that to other people, guess what? They could do it to you too. And you all know I teach at college level, and I have to remind my students, hey, you're not immune to that coming back on you. They seemed surprised. They were just like, oh my gosh, like, no, I would never do anything to get canceled. You don't know. And the way y'all put everything on the internet that you do, it could be a few years down the road since somebody finds out that you said something and cancels you 10 years from now. You don't know. So I don't think canceling is the best. And, in this world where, Black women have a hard way to go in many ways, not always, but in many ways, I'm going to look to extend compassion first. If it's all wrong and it goes wrong and we find out it's wrong, then we got to go for, justice and help our sisters the best way we can. But for now, I'm going to try and look under the surface and see if I can extend some compassion. How about you? Bye for now.